the Irish national anthem.
Sheena Fianna Fáil, a toffee all egairin, wind or sloon, hearten Durrani coon, brave as they sire, Shantir a Shinshir Fasa, Niag for Fuin Tirana, Fuin Tro, Anukt, a Haim Savard, a whale, Lake Yan or Gale Kun Bosh no sail, Lake Una Shrake, Way Lavok Nal Bilair, Surely Ponigaran Navin.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Cristo Rey podcast. I'm Rebecca and we're here with Nehemiah,
What up?
Alonga,
Hey guys.
Jaleel,
Hey everyone.
Brianna.
Hey y'all.
And since you guys know that St. Patrick's Day is next week, we're here with Mr. Corrigan's mom, Mrs. Corrigan.
That means the blessings of God on you, and that's what it translates as.
So I wanted to ask, do you feel like the experience of Irish Americans have been depicted well in like movies or anything?
I don't like the stereotypical ones because it's not like what our culture is like. You know, I absolutely hate the leprechaun thing. I mean, that was made up by Americans. We don't believe in leprechauns, okay? We're not like that at all. We have a beautiful culture that goes back like millennia. Every culture has. Does that make sense? Any culture you come from has like a history that has been portrayed in like movies that is not exactly what happened. So if you mention a leprechaun to me, I will just be like, there are no leprechauns.
Right.
So it's been like typically in movies and stuff like that, portrayed as that's what we are. We have like a huge Neolithical culture that goes way back, and we're very spiritual as people. But I hate St. Patrick's Day. I never did. But I hate St. Patrick's Day in the way it's portrayed here.
Right.
Where like, kiss me, I'm Irish. I mean, that sounds awful. But, you know, that's not what we're about. It's about our culture, and it's about the saint and, you know, St. Patrick. And so we try to hide on St. Patrick's Day, actually, and not get involved in. It's the one day in like the year you can just go out and wear a green hat or something and then drink yourself to death.
Do you think that if there were more Irish American history teachers like Mr. Corrigan, that
yeah, that's my son.
This is Ms. Saliba, your campus minister. Today is the fourth Friday of Lent. An important part of Lent is repenting for our sins. We can repent on two different levels. One, we realize how much God loves us and how we've let God down. So we grieve sin for love of God. And two, we can focus on the ugliness and the wrong and what it has caused. And so we grieve it because it's damaging and hateful. We repent when we acknowledge before God, I am the one that did this, and I did it freely. And then we renounce it. And we set ourselves to do things differently in the future. Note that repenting is different from regretting. Repenting is between me and God. Regretting is mostly about me. Ultimately, we confront a hard fact about human existence and a beautiful truth at the same time. That we keep sinning, but that Christ saves us.
I guess this isn't necessarily a religious question, Ms. Corrigan, but I would like to ask a question just about, if you don't mind, just talking about like the treatment I felt being a first generation like immigrant from Ireland to here. And I was just wondering if you could kind of just speak on some of the challenges, but also some of the things that you kind of shaped who you were as a parent and just as a person here.
That's a very interesting question because, I mean, obviously, Mr. Corrigan or Oliver, if you want to call him that, you know, we immigrated. He was 9 when he came here. He probably doesn't want me to share that. Well, I don't think he cares. But anyway, very much so. The Irish are very much, as a culture, okay, are very much accepted here in America for some reason. Well, I guess because of, the mass immigration and stuff like that. But we did, in the early years, when people got off the boat and stuff like that, we were discriminated against. And it was almost like, and I hate to bring this up, but things would be posted like no blacks and no Irish if you wanted to stay somewhere. So a stigma has followed us from that. Now everyone loves us. Everybody loves an Irish person, except on St. Patrick's Day when they say things to us in the sense that we want to be negative, but people that just give us tell us my great grandfather was Irish, and they're so proud, but they don't know what the prejudice was when they came over here.
I think that I like how you compared we didn't compare, but you related the Irish struggle to the Black struggle, and then you went on to say how people
yes no offense intended.
No, not at all. But I just think that you saying that how the grandparents, people like to say, oh, my grandparent was Irish, so this day means something to me.
The Irish and the Chinese built the railroads that are, well, probably not now, but, they were putting down the states and stuff like that. Yeah, it was a prejudice. People hated us.
Why do you think the stigma has now changed so much for the Irish and not, and there still is so much racism as far as going along with Black people?
Yeah, you know what? That's an interesting point. Because way back in the day, way before I was born, of course. But yeah, America was an emerging nation, right? It was new. And then they pushed out the indigenous people, of course. What they did is stole the land from them. And then what had happened is colonialism. They were going into, Africa and the African nations, right? And they brought back slaves and just used them to build a nation. But they didn't even care. And of course, the Irish came to America because we had the famine caused by the English, because they, it wasn't like the potato famine like they actually said. It was like they just wanted the land. And so people were starving and they had to go to America. This is history. And try to, make something of their life. It's really a tragic story in history. And I hear what you're coming from.
Hey guys, Ruby here. This Monday, March 15th is our second wellness day. There's no school that day, in person or virtual. This is just a day to relax and recharge. Also, this weekend is the beginning of daylight savings time, so don't forget to set your clocks forward. Enjoy your wellness day. I know I will.
When St. Patrick's Day comes up, which is what the subject is, getting back to it, and I love your concern. Yeah, they're celebrating St. Patrick's Day here like it was a celebration, but it wasn't a celebration. It was, St. Patrick's Day way back in the day was just people getting together and doing stuff because they came from poverty. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes perfect sense.
It's a remembrance of what was past.
So are you saying that St. Patrick's Day is more spiritual than anything?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sorry. I just went off on a bend there.
We're fine.
Yeah, it's very much more spiritual. And since I've been here, and Mr. Corrigan can say that, he was 9 when he came here. I just try to not be Irish on that day because the Americans celebrate it like it's some amazing thing, go out have a drink, have a party, stuff like that. We just hide. Well, not hiding, but you know what I mean. It means a different thing to us. I mean, he's our patron saint, and we don't want him to be celebrated by people going out drinking and having a good time. 432, that's when he was made a saint. 432, that's when he came to Ireland, and he was a slave. You know that, right? From the Romans.
Wow, I did not know that. I personally didn't know that. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah. Well, what happened? The Roman Empire. Do you want some amazing? You probably are sick of me right now, but he was a slave because the Roman Empire was invading Europe, right? And he was brought as a boy. I think he was 9. And he was settled in Ireland as a slave, and he worked the land, and then he actually got himself back into Rome because he was like 20 or something, and then he decided to be a priest. That's why people in Ireland revere him. Very fascinating, but nobody knows this.
That's awesome.
Hola a todos, soy la señora Vallejo. Estoy aquí en el podcast de hoy para informarles sobre el Guadalupe Summit y por qué, si tú hablas español o en casa se habla español, debes hacer todo lo posible para participar y ser parte de este evento tan importante para nosotros los hispanos. El Guadalupe Summit es un evento que se organiza para todos los estudiantes hispanos de high school aquí en Columbus. Es un evento que te da la oportunidad de conocer a otros estudiantes como tú, que tienen experiencias similares a las tuyas y que como tú tienen sueños que quisieran ver hechos realidad. Todos compartimos algo muy especial que es la fe católica. ¿Qué tal si pudiéramos unir nuestra fe para lograr un ambiente mejor, empezando por nuestra familia, después nuestra comunidad y, ¿por qué no?, para lograr un mundo mejor? Acompáñanos en este retiro. Inscríbete no más del 15 de marzo y participa. Te esperamos.
I just love the way you speak about your culture, and being of African culture, I love to express how much I love it. So I just wanted to ask you, what makes you most proud to be Irish?
Everybody's culture, no matter where they come from, is the most precious thing to anyone. It doesn't matter where you come from, right? It's your origin. I mean, so you have to, it doesn't depend. It depends if you're Swedish, if you're African American, well, even African. Everybody comes from the same point, and that's how the world evolved. I mean, people just migrated. Family. I mean, it's just bonding. It's just embracing the culture that you have, whether it be Irish dancing or Celtic music. But if you had another culture, I think that's equally, I think everybody has something in common with the culture. And I don't think it really makes any difference. I mean, some cultures have, certain things that they like to do. The Irish culture is very musical and dancing and just, it's hard to describe. And so it's kind of like an easy question, but a hard question. It's just a feeling that you get for your own culture.
My name is Mr. Lentz, and I am the Strategic Communications Associate at Cristo Rey Columbus High School, and I'm here to recap the virtual event Coffee and Conversations. Speaking on behalf of the advancement team, the virtual event Coffee and Conversations, Grounds for Celebration, which was held over Zoom last Friday morning, was a great opportunity to celebrate the Cristo Rey Columbus extended family of donors, volunteers, and supervisors. As the name implies, packets of coffee, or coffee grounds, were mailed to attendees with the idea that they would brew some coffee and enjoy some engaging conversations. There were 3 recorded video conversations between PWSP supervisors and their students, as well as 2 recorded video conversations involving donors and mentors with students. And all of the conversations highlighted special relationships between supporters and our students that have benefited and continue to benefit everyone involved, showing why investing in Cristo Rey Columbus students is so rewarding at every level. For example, Jeremiah from the class of 2019 shared how Mr. and Mrs. Sonnet, who are Cristo Rey Columbus volunteers, inspired him while at Cristo Rey, including the engineering career path that he is currently pursuing in college. We want to thank all of the donors, volunteers, and supervisors and students who participated in the recorded video conversations. Mr. and Mrs. Sonnet with Jeremiah, Mr. and Mrs. Raines with Savion, Lieutenant Barry with Angie, Ms. Ailnick with Brianna, and Ms. Smith with Andrea. And now we want to thank all of the Cristo Rey Columbus students who helped us during the live program. Class of 2019 alumnus Liana for being our MC, Nehemiah for reading the opening prayer, and Sophia for her beautiful rendition of Let Me Call You Sweetheart. Now it's time to recognize Cristo Rey Columbus President Mr. Patrick, PWSP Director of Operations Ms. Muchler, and Board Chair Mr. Moore for their wonderful, impactful remarks during the event. Plus, we need to recognize Ms. Trua for her fantastic event planning and technical skills. And now a shout out to the following students who participated in lively breakout sessions with their donors, volunteers, and supervisors. Seniors Alondra, Nehemiah, Brianna and Paige, and sophomores Arandi, Makita, Madalena, Sophia, and Valentina. Once again, we want to thank our amazing donors, volunteers, and supervisors who support our incredible students in a variety of ways. Their generosity is providing outstanding opportunities for our outstanding students by supporting our mission of helping to transform Columbus one student at a time. And our students also did a fantastic job. We could not have done it without them. They helped make this year's Coffee and Conversations such a terrific virtual event. Thank you to everyone who joined us for the fun and enlightening Coffee and Conversations that proved to be a great way to start the day. Go Cougars!
I've been here for 30 years and I still think I'm Irish.
It's the same for me. Like, I'm not in my country.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, what's your country?
I was born here, but my parents are from Africa, so I consider Africa as my country.
Oh, yeah, so you got my point entirely.
Yep, I sure did.
Yeah, that you're African.
Yep.
So it comes back to like your roots.
Exactly, and you feel that.
I'm Irish. I can't tell you anything different than that. I mean, it's an emotional feeling, and not even a cultural feeling. It doesn't matter where you've been born. You have to go back to your, as they say, to your roots, and that sounds so trite, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you still feel that you're African, right?
Right.
And you are. Not going to argue. I still feel that I'm Irish.
No, I totally agree.
That's a nice question, by the way. Some of these things are, just like try it and we do this, and you grew up here and all of that, but you still have a calling. I mean, back to your roots, I mean.
No, you're 100% correct.
Thank you. I do too. And I've been here like forever. Probably older, twice as old as you are. Honest to goodness. Yeah, I'm Irish. I mean, I was born there. But even if you're not born there, whatever your family is, and everyone's different, but you're feeling that, yeah, you can't deny that. I would embrace it if I were you.
I sure do. And are there any other traditions that you do? I know you say you don't like the Kiss the Irish during St. Patrick's Day.
Well, what we do traditionally, if you want like a breakdown, is that what you want of what we do? If I was in Ireland right now, so it's St. Patrick's Day, right? And it's the middle of Lent, usually. And we're exempt from fasting, and we can eat meat and do all of that stuff, because Lent, you can't have any meat on Fridays and stuff. Anyway, what happens on St. Patrick's Day, when I was growing up, I can only just say this because, from memory, but it's pretty much the same. We'll get up and we dress up and we go to Mass. And then after Mass, there'll be the St. Patrick's Day parade. Okay, you can say like 4th of July parade. When people have parades, Memorial Day, whatever, and everybody would go downtown, whatever city you lived in, and there would be a parade. Okay, and then after the parade, we'd come back to our respective houses, of course, and then we would have, they call it dinner, but we have a different way of doing that. A dinner for us is like about 1 or 2 p.m. So it's kind of flipped, but it doesn't actually matter. We'll have like our corned beef and cabbage and stuff like that. That is actually a thing that still is a good thing. Then we would just like watch like the football game, or the men probably would go to the pub bar, and the women would be like just hanging around, and the kids would be running around. I mean, it's not like it is here. I mean, it's like actually probably very low key according to Americans. Does that like help you at all?
That was perfect. I love that.
Oh, you were a delight.
Hi guys, Ava here. The Cristo Rey Counseling Department is creating the first ever Cristo Rey Columbus recipe book. All students, staff, faculty, and members of our Cristo Rey community are encouraged to submit a recipe. Even better, film a video of yourself cooking the dish. Submit your recipe or video to your grade level counselor. The submission deadline is Friday, March 19th, so get to cooking, people.
Just because it is the St. Patrick's Day, we honor that with Mass, okay? And then we have a little parade. And then we all go home and have some lunch, which actually Irish people call dinner, by the way, because like lunch, here's the thing you want to put in there. Lunch is in the middle of the day. It's 1 o'clock, okay? 1 p.m. And we have a thing called tea, okay? Which is 3 to 4, which is kind of a snack, you know what I mean? And then we have like another tea, which is about 5 o'clock. So our menu is kind of different to America, because you have like breakfast and you have lunch and you have dinner, but we have like 5 meals a day instead of like 4. Yeah, I mean, it's a cultural thing. I'm sure it's different in different cultures too, how they like eat their meals and when they do it. But our meals, because we're a farming, we were, and we still are a farming community, our meals were set by when the men would go out in the morning and they'd be out in the fields, and then they would have to have something like mid-morning, and then they would have to have a mid-afternoon, and then they would come home and eat like the main meal in the evening, because they were out like farming. So you couldn't, they would go off with their little sacks with stuff in them. And yeah, I'm sure that's very common across the world.
I really like what you're telling us, and I didn't know the differences were so big between America and Irish, because you only hear what the people in America will tell you. So it's nice hearing it from you.
You got
this is the truth.
On. Yes. So I was hoping I would make my point across. Oh my gosh, thank you.
Of course. No, thank you so much.
Okay, so recently with my mom, I saw that the new president for America, Joe Biden, made a proclamation on Irish American heritage to make March the Irish American Heritage Month. So how do you feel about that?
I mean, actually, tell me how you feel, and then I'll answer you.
I'm glad. I think America is a very diverse country, and I'm glad that the president is including more heritage, and especially now that you're telling us how much of a struggle it was for you to be an American Irish woman. Now you guys can talk more about that, and now you can be celebrated in March. So I think it's beautiful.
Oh, because of like, St. Patrick's Day coming up and stuff like that. No, I'm all about that. It's all about diversity. But having said that, I'm sure you know way more about that than me, as they say. He's the president, right? Okay, but isn't the month of March? I mean, is that designated to something else?
It's also kind of designated to Women's History Month.
Yeah, I knew that one. Well, that's a good thing. I mean, for the majority of people in Ireland, I have to make this, because we're not in Ireland, obviously, we're in America. The Irish people in Ireland won't even know this.
Hey, it's Dr. Ragland. March is Women's History Month, a perfect time to reflect on the women who have fought for women's equality throughout the ages. An example of this is the women who fought during the abolitionist and women's rights movements. The fight to end slavery and the fight for women's rights were heavily connected, grounded in the belief that all people are created equal. The first anti-slavery convention of American women met in New York City in 1837. In 1840, after being turned away from the World Anti-Slavery Convention because they were women, Lucretia Mott and Elizabeth Cady Stanton set out to organize the first Women's Rights Convention, which was held in Seneca Falls, New York in 1848. This convention set the groundwork for the long battle for women's equality that continues today. Nearly 300 people attended the Seneca Falls Women's Rights Convention, many of whom were also involved in the abolitionist movement, including Frederick Douglass. The Declaration of Sentiments was drafted at the convention, calling for women's equality in politics, jobs, family, education, religion, and morals. This convention spawned similar conventions throughout the country. In 1851, there was a women's rights convention in Akron, Ohio, in which Sojourner Truth gave her famous "Ain't I a Woman" speech. In this speech, she tied together the fight for women's rights to vote and the fight for full Black freedom. If anyone can email me what were some of the main points of Sojourner Truth's "Ain't I a Woman" speech, they'll be able to get a special prize. My email address is aragland@CristoRayColumbus.org. Make sure you listen to the other podcasts for the month of March for more information about influential women throughout history and more opportunities to win prizes.
I don't know why people just want to divide people. You're American, right?
Yep.
Why should it even matter? I mean, people want to put people into little boxes.
No, you're so right. People want to slap labels on people and then tell them this is what you should be because they
that was
see
the best
it.
word I've ever heard. Slap people into categories. We're all people, and the world, if you think the world, well, the universe, is ours. It doesn't matter where we came from. We can live.
Right.
And so, yeah, I'm not that I'm a particularly political person, but I'm very humanitarian. And it's like, I don't care where you came from.
And we appreciate that.
I mean, and we shouldn't care.
We shouldn't.
We shouldn't care.
Yeah, there's too many labels placed on people today.
Well, absolutely. I don't think we've gone backwards instead of forwards, but anyway. Yes, my son Oliver. Yeah, he was born in Ireland and he's lived here since he was 9 years old. And it makes him Irish because that's his heritage, but it makes him American because that's where he's been living. And as soon as people can figure that out, and not cast people by, and I don't want to do this, cast people by the origin, the color of their skin, where they were born. My daughter, Amelia, she's getting married on June 4th to a guy from Cambodia. That's where he started off, and they had Pol Pot, and they had to flee. And now he's an American, of course, but, he'll still be cast by the color of his skin or his name. So I just hate racism.
Yeah, as a person who has the skin color,
didn't I?
that tends to do that. Yeah, I feel the same way. And I understand your daughter's husband's struggles and the fact that people were going to look at him that way instead of what's in his heart.
Their plight was awful. They had to take him and his brother on a boat. So I'm very pro. I don't care. And I don't know why people are so mean.
Honestly, same.
It's not rocket science. I just got off on a tangent. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. And I think right there is a perfect place to end today's podcast. All right. I want to thank everybody for joining. That was a lot of help. Thank you so much for coming and for talking about everything today. You're really engaging as well. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Okay. Right.
Hey there, Mr. Corrigan here. I just wanted to take a moment to thank the podcast hosts for resisting the urge to ask my mom about any embarrassing stories from my high school years. I was afraid they might ask about, never mind. Isn't my mom great? Now, at the beginning of the show, I attempted to sing the Irish national anthem. I want to apologize for my very poor Irish pronunciation, but I tried my best. Now, unless we have any Irish speakers out there, I figure it's pretty unlikely many of our listeners would understand the words, so we're going to close with the anthem again, but this time in English. The song entitled A Soldier's Song is, yes, a song about soldiers, revolutionaries about to engage in a great battle for Irish independence. Now, before you listen, I want to make note of one line in particular. When the soldiers are described, the song says, "Some have come from a land beyond the wave." This is a reference to the Irish diaspora, the many millions of Irish-born spread throughout the world, in particular in the United States, of which my family are members. Forgive my bad singing, but hopefully I'll make up for it with enthusiasm. Okay, here goes. Soldiers are we, whose lives are pledged to Ireland. Some have come from a land beyond the wave, sworn to be free. No more our ancient sireland shall shelter the despot or the slave. Tonight we man the barn at will, in Erin's cause come woe, or we'll mid cannons roar and rifles peal. We'll chant a soldier's song